Explore the Thoughtless Embark on a life-changing journey of self-discovery. Embrace harmony with self, with others, with Earth. One world in a new world. Zen Benefiel skillfully ignites conversations, guiding guests to reveal personal journeys and perspectives. Listeners are inspired to seek knowledge and find wisdom in their own lives. Join this transformative journey as we navigate the depth of human experience.
Namaste and in Lak'ech, and welcome to this episode of One World in a New World. I'm your host, Zen Benefiel, and as always, please do like, subscribe, share ubiquitously, because when you do, others benefit as well. And isn't that what it's all about, right? Sharing with each other for a better world. Speaking of a better world, you can go to planataryscitizens.net and download a free copy of my latest book. It's my 43rd. It's called Planetary Citizens: Awakening the Heart of Humanity, and it is getting some stellar reviews on Amazon. So it's free to you. Check it out, find some benefit in it, and I know you will. So thanks so much. This week's guests are Ira Moon and Matthew Eiking. They are two fabulous people from the Netherlands who have found each other and have been producing sound healing music for some time now. So we're going to get into a really great conversation about first how they came together, what music means to them, how deep it goes, and what the benefits are that you can experience. So don't go away. We'll be right back. So welcome, you two. This has been a wonderful flow to these moments where we can be here together and express ourselves in ways that maybe we haven't been able to for a while, eh? Thanks for
Thank you
being
so
here,
much for
Ayan
having
and
Yeah.
Ira and
Matthew.
Matthew. So, we were just talking about ADHD. I was talking and my head went elsewhere, and I had an out-of-body moment. So I'm back. Let's see how we continue. Um, let's, the two of you came together recently. First of all, who are you and what do you do? We have a brief, or I gave a brief um, about your work, and it's much more in the bridging of inner and outer worlds than most of the interviews that I've done so far. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about this and sharing it with our audience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, well, we met about 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. He was doing healing, he was facilitating healing energy groups, and he asked me to play handpan and sing. And I was very happy single, and so was he. And we were just doing the inner work, so to say, and I was really happy just being on my own, having my friends, having my work. And then a friend of ours connected us, and she was smart. She knew how much I wanted to be single, and she knew about him. So she said, just play handpan with him and see how it goes from there, just to work together or have a great friend. And then I saw his YouTube video and I was instantly, oh, okay. He could be a match. And that was really
Oh, there's
new.
some possibility here, right?
Yeah, I was 9 years single, so I was really um, surprised by myself, so to say. And then
Sure.
he asked me to play on that.
Interesting. Pardon me for just a moment. The 9 year cycle, right? The completion.
Mhm,
You were
mhm.
ready.
And I was coming from a so-called twin flame story, so I was completely fed up with everything. I was done. And then yeah, we met for to play on your event. And that was really weird because we stepped out of each our own car, and he said, "Now what?" And I was like,
What a great question.
let's work together." but yeah, it was a pandemic as well, so it was out of the question to go to restaurants, and so we bought some food in a supermarket and ate in the car with alcohol-free champagne. And he said, "Oh, you don't drink either?" And I said, "No, you don't either? Check." Because I
Check.
was done with alcohol as well.
Mm.
And then, yeah, from there on, we just really clicked straight away on the work as well.
Mm.
And then later on, his guest actually said, the participant said, there's something going on there when you combine the energy healing with the sound healing. And that was actually for the first time that something more seemed to be happening. And that was the reason why we needed to connect.
That sounds just amazing. And from your perspective and going through the process, longing for someone that you could connect with and yet being happy being single. I get that.
Mm.
I had a practice marriage that I had 30 years that I waited till I found or was introduced to my twin flame, Luba. Matthew, how about you? What was your perspective of what was happening? And then I'm going to dive a little bit deeper
Sure.
into the prep work to get there.
Yeah, I was actually when my uh, awakening happened, I moved from Holland to Ibiza, like got off all everything I was doing. I was working in advertising, and for some reason, healing stepped in, energy healing. Long story
You
short,
kind of need to be healed after you've been pummeled with advertising, right?
yeah, I needed a long pause of healing. It's like it's a long story, but it helped me get through all kinds of addictions, ego bursts, and stuff like that.
And Ogilvy, of course.
Sorry?
And Ogilvy, of course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thick book, I learned it inside out. Yeah, but I was in Ibiza and I just broke up, or not just, but 4 years before I broke up with mother of my son, and it was a very strenuous,
Oh, no doubt.
interesting relationship. I had to like heal from. So I did. I was living on a mountain, and 4 years of internal work is actually it was needed. So I was fed up with ladies as well, completely fed up. So in the end, I was completely open to receive. I didn't realize that, but I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't looking for anything. I was
Sure.
just
Well,
open to.
that's the whole thing, right? Isn't it that the
Yeah,
old adage is, whatever you're searching for, let go, and it'll show up.
yeah,
Because when you're searching, there's a push and pull of energy that doesn't allow things to really connect. And I can relate to the trauma. My practice marriage, we have 4 kids. I have 8 great grandkids now.
Mm.
And, then 30 years later, I'd been through several relationships, hoping to find someone that I could connect with. Never happened. And then I was fine being by myself too, right? I was just enjoying life. And then I got to a place where, this just isn't enough. And come on, guys, look, you promised, because I'd had an event early in my life that kind of said, okay, certain things will show up at their appointed time, right? Not necessarily mine, right? But when it's ready, it'll happen.
Yeah.
And it finally did. And there were dreams and visions and things that set it all up. And then I get invited to a Kundalini yoga teacher training graduation by a friend that I'd met 2 weeks prior at an outdoor music festival. Just things, the impeccability of the setup is amazing. So I show up, I'm sitting in the back of the room. This woman gets up, walks in front of me, and my heart literally flips in my chest.
Mm.
And as evidence of, here it is, right? Had no idea who she was. She looked like my daughter's age. And so I was like, no, wait a minute, I can't go there. And then she gets introduced, and Luba Brodsky is her name. And I heard the Brodsky. It's like, oh, Russian. Way cool, because my life's been themed with harmony among people and planet. What better partner to have than somebody that's supposed to be our arch enemy, right?
Yes.
And so that was impeccable. And
Wow.
then, walking up to her afterwards and saying, I find you intriguing and would love to get to know you. Can we have coffee? I'll even make lunch for us if you're open to that. The first thing she says to me is, are you reading me?
Wow.
So that launched it. And she's also trained in Mussorgsky College in St. Petersburg as a piano pedagogue and accompanist.
Wow.
So she has been at the level, she accompanied Baryshnikov, for instance,
Yeah.
in her prior life. And another well-known artist here, actor, Patrick Swayze.
Mm.
His mother had a dance studio and he continued in that as well. So she played for him by request. And she's an amazing sight reader. She still has 26 students now, and she's pulling out stuff every once in a while and just sight reading it, and impeccably so. And it
Yeah.
sounds classical, right? It just sounds so amazing. Um,
Yeah. Stories
but I
of also
digress, right? So,
like attention
and
TV.
I digress.
Yeah.
So in this, as you're both internalizing these functional factors in stepping into your next steps in life
Mm.
together, what did you notice as the core prep work that you were able to understand and perform to be available for it? I understand that in the moment, you probably had no consideration of that. It was just the now, right? And it felt like, here we go. However, we're often prone to kind of looking at things and examining, okay, what fit where and how and when and all that kind of stuff. And did you do those kinds of things in your own processing, whether you spoke about it to each other or not? And I'm unsure.
In the beginning, I had a moment of a tremendous trigger and fear. The first time he said, I think I like you. Mm. Do I have to respond right now? Shit. I'm not sure if I'm ready. And what will I respond? I don't know. I don't know anything. And then I completely got in my tower. Um, but after that, he was so wonderful because I spoke to a friend who did the same in tune. A tune-in training as me, and she said, "Are you not really afraid of that someone will stay with you for a change and get to know you, the whole of you? Is that not your biggest fear?"
Great
And I started to
distinction.
cry like crazy, and then I said, "Yes, that's my biggest fear because then when someone is always there with you, he sees everything, also when you're not that charming and blah blah blah." So then after the breakdown, I could text him back, "I'm so sorry that I didn't text you sooner, but I didn't know what was happening with me. And I was getting caught up in an old process." And then he texted back, "Is it an idea that we do this together?" And I was like, holy shit, I want this guy. And this is the guy. He so matches my vibrational vortex or whatever. And yep, so we quickly spoke about triggers and fears and belief systems and past and everything.
Mm.
And
But
frequency response.
sorry,
And frequency response.
yeah,
Exactly.
definitely,
Exactly.
yeah, you really got it. And the on the work area, actually, everything flowed.
Mm.
We almost never, yeah, now sometimes we speak about a little bit, we argue a little bit about what do you want, what do you want, but the
Hmm.
whole development of the music and the energy together, we just had in no time we had a tour with well, sometimes even quite big churches and 100 people, and then that just happened. And we called it the Halo experience, and we don't know who came up with it, but it was just there, and we called it
Sure.
the Halo experience. And yeah, that's actually,
Do you find with uh, the common phrase is law of attraction, right? What you focus on, you produce. And so knowing that, if we're going to have some fears, let's make them good ones, right?
yeah,
So your fear of that further connection brought it about. And I'm wondering here, because in the recursive function aspect of being, the understanding that we question ourselves continually, looking for
Mhm.
answers,
Mhm.
right? So we dissolve into that nothingness in order for answers to come. And being
And
able to function that way gives you the opportunity to hold paradox.
Mhm.
Mm.
Oh, I don't want this, but I do want this, right?
Yeah, and going through that, you deliberate yourself,
Liberate.
Hmm.
liberate yourself from that belief, and then I really believe that you sort of expand your consciousness, and if we all do, the entire planet at some point will. And that goes in layers. So we're not
Yes.
done. We're seriously not done. An awakened couple.
Nope.
Sit in the car with us, and you will know the truth.
That's fine. I'm sitting on the other side of the world from you, and I still know it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see stuff. That's unfair.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting. When we met, I've I went through before I met her through a big shift in going into trust, and especially in trust in me, because my big theme was jealousy. So imagine being in a relationship with a jealous person. I'm not sure if you,
Hmm.
but this is like hell. At least not even for me, but for the other other part, it's
Sure. Well, both, right? It's
oh,
incongruent. There's disturbance.
yeah.
There's a
One of
disturbance in the force, right?
but I was able to go through that at a certain point, and that's why when we met, I realized that this was, if you talk about frequency, there was like knowing beyond all these layers of pain and stuff. So the recognition was beautiful, and that's why it flowed from the start. It's like free meat, and
Well,
that's
and the field that you're in together,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You're highly
You are
attuned
growing
to
together.
that ability to sense resonance.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that continues because then as you say this, I remember I was very jealous as well. And imagine our audience is almost always women, and they all want to hug, and I don't feel any jealousy at all, which is quite new for me. So yeah, and it makes sense because when you are home with yourself, why
Sure.
would you be jealous?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that most of your audience is women. When I first got into metaphysics and exploring the area here in Phoenix, the majority of people involved were feminine or women.
Mm.
Um, and so as a guy, I was like kind of out of the norm, and it was an interesting navigation with all the energies that people were unaware of that they would share and that I was sensitive to and would often get this um, reflection from others of where they were and not necessarily where I was,
Mm.
which made it a little difficult. And those different kinds of challenging emotions come up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whether to move with them or just stay still and observe and recognize, okay, this is going on. What's this about? How am I feeling in my body? What's it mean? Is it something that I need to pursue or something that I just need to be aware of?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a thin line.
Yeah.
So in that, for the two of you, um, we were talking about COVID and this door opening that it facilitated. Um, and the two of you met during and slightly after. And Ari, you had uh, put what, a couple of albums or produced a couple of them to date, and then this next one that you guys put together. I love the title, Echoes of the Unknown.
It's
Mhm.
actually our first together album because the other one was on my
Right,
own.
that's the distinction I was hoping to make. Is this you were fine by yourself, and now this opening happened, and let's go back to that Um, During that experience of COVID, was there the opportunity? Well, obviously you took the opportunity, that opportunity being to self-reflect, to go inside, to, the obsession on self-hygiene and sequestration seem to have a behavior modification effect that internalized over time for
Mhm.
some. Possibly,
Mhm.
maybe. We haven't really figured that out yet because we're still showing up, right? How was that for you? Did you notice a deeper inner quest independently? And then when the two of you came together, what kinds of things did you discuss about that?
Well, we were already on this path. So for us, it was like, yes, more that was the response, at
Hmm.
least for me, and for her later on, it happened to be the same feeling. Of course, it helped for us to go deeper, and when we met, we were able to see what would come from that. But I was very happy that finally there was a mass awakening, in a sense, happening. So that was really, it felt really wholesome for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, we could see a lot of shifts happening in people close to us, and during the gatherings as well. Finally, people realized that there were not these conspiracy theories. They were actually seeing stuff that other people didn't want to see, and all the mechanisms started to unfold, and everybody could see if they wanted.
Yeah.
If they
Right.
could go through the fear-based illusion, then yeah, we could see mass shifts happening around us. But of course, when this all disappeared, people started to, because they were wired this way, going back into their old habits. And now it's we hope that we will still be managing to get them in that same
Yeah.
clarity. That's more or less the whole purpose of what we
Well,
do.
as anything, life's a non-linear spiral, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes non-local, even.
Yeah.
And in that process, being able to recognize it as such, we understand, maybe you picked it up as well. It seems anyway, that there's this greater understanding of patience, time, allowance, noticing things, and just noticing rather than grabbing a hold of
Mhm.
Yeah. Because who is getting a hold of what?
this.
There is, yeah.
It's hard not to bask in this, right?
Yeah. Well, the Halo experience at the end, so there's this energy healing. During that, there's the sound. I don't like the word sound healing, but there is me getting melodies through, and that does something to the people, or the people
Mhm.
pick out something that they need. And then we end with a meditation in which they experience the nothingness. So guided to it, we go to a field of nothingness, and you can dissolve your body. Hey, that's interesting. There's still something that watches, that observes.
Yeah.
And we hope, because that was my journey through the pandemic. I was stuck in Spain. I couldn't go back because I didn't
Hmm.
have money to go back to the Netherlands, and then I should call the embassy and blah blah blah, and I was not ready. So I could, and we were not allowed outside. So I was in an Airbnb stuck. So there was only one way, and that was going inward, and I was very very happy with that, because then I finally could go through layers, through layers, through layers, until there was nothing, absolutely nothing.
Right.
And I wanted to bring that back to the people. So and because he facilitates this field that sort of, you could say, dissolves the ego, which is always there,
Mhm.
is always present. We cannot kill the ego, and we don't want to, but it's sort of the experience of having no ego. So the meditation and the experiencing nothingness, even people who didn't never meditate at all say, wow, that was, what was that?
Right, right. How do you explain that? It's this
Yeah,
deep sense of just all knowingness in
Coming
that
yeah,
home.
nothingness.
coming
Yeah.
home, they say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's coming home. So people know about this, but they don't know about this.
They remember.
Right. Yeah, we hear the talk about it. It's just the direct experience of it that's lacking a bit.
Yeah.
And that's the again, the recursive function. That's the core, the source, right? That's where we go to make inquiries.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then it evolves from that in each one of us. We each are connected in our own individuated ways. And yet there's a collective experience of that that can be had. And then the ego shifts to we go.
We go. Oh, wow.
That's nice.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what's happened?
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You move beyond the ego, which is about protection and direction and query and thinking, right? And then you get out of the thinking into the sensing, which opens up new worlds that
Really.
you've been able to provide experience of in a direct way, which makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Can think about things, you can extrapolate about them, you can have all kinds of thought experiments
Yeah.
until you have a direct experience of it.
Exactly.
I mean, that makes it indelible.
Then it's the embodiment, as you said. An old lady I know calls it doors opened from the inside out.
Hmm.
That's exactly it.
And
If
all the ancient scriptural things, calendars, all kinds of, sages, soothsayers, all those folks are saying the same thing. Blavatsky even did it. She talked about the layers of having to descend into this terrible place because it's frightening, right? Initially. And then you realize, oh, there's nothing to be frightened of.
Hmm. Yeah.
I remember that I was not afraid of death
Mhm.
all my life. It's like the button wasn't pushed. And then I had this experience of me leaving my body for a couple of seconds. I was just here, and I was like, "Why am I here? I'm here. I'm not here." And then the experience was already gone, but I had the experience of me not being my body.
Right.
Thank God, the next day I had an appointment with my, let's call it spiritual teacher, and said, "Yes, finally you know what the truth is." I said, "What is it?" Yeah, you are not a soul living in a body; you are a body
Right.
living in
Or
a
at least the
soul.
next layer of it, right?
Exactly, you're inside out, and that's why. And then finally, all quarters hit rock bottom, and I was like, "Okay, so this makes sense." He said, "The good news is you cannot die." And for me, it was like, if you talk about remembering, this was a big moment. It's like, oh, and then everything fell into place. And then, if you cannot die, let's make a party, right? We're here to enjoy and make the best of it. So
And
this
therein
is
is the bridge, right? The bridging of, okay, now I've had this experience, now what?
Hmm.
exactly.
Right? And you hit the pause button and you wait.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. A lot of shifts happened after that as well,
Mm.
which
Sure.
is common because you shift in consciousness. So the next insights and information is coming into your system and needs to integrate as well.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That
and
do
it's
you find, did you find in that process where, and we spoke about this pre show, is the practicality of things, how you ground this understanding into something that's shareable.
Mm.
well, that was the healing work that came through. My experience is that I, at a certain point, started to download certain frequencies. It's a long story. I will not
Hmm.
bore you with it, but that's my understanding. And by doing that, and if I do a healing session, these frequencies are available for people to bathe in and to receive whatever they need. So that's the practical thing. When
Sure.
like
Well, you get the download, then you open the file, right? It's like, okay, what's in here?
that's really practical, right? It's
Yeah,
like, and it's not me doing it. It was like it wanted me to download and then be available to just be the door for people to
sure.
experience it. And this is
Now,
super.
the me, the I, the self, ultimately is doing it. It's just a greater part of yourself that we haven't connected with yet to understand the magnitude of, because we're always taught, right? Part of that programming is that you'll never be worthy,
Mm.
Exactly.
right? Well, what if we are?
Yeah, that's a big one.
The universe wants you to do it on purpose. So
Mhm.
no even worth. That's not a word in the universe. I don't believe in worthy or not worthy. It's there.
And words often get in the way, which
Yeah.
leads me to the next question. In this, excuse me, the energy that you go into and come from in your vocalization, it provides just a panoply of opportunities, right, to tune in and feel and sense and explore. How did you begin to become aware of the effect that you, of the gift you have and the effect that it has?
Well, to be honest, I went to Spain for the music, but the music industry. So
Hmm.
to perform, and well, that was a good idea. When the pandemic started, everything was closed.
Sure.
So um, people had said to me in the past, you have a healing voice. And it didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand what they meant.
It's like
Yeah,
tapping you
right.
on the shoulder, right? Hello.
No idea. But actually, when we started to work together, um, people said, wow, when you stand behind me and you sing this melody, I feel my throat doing this, or my heart opened, or people said that they saw themselves in a column of light. And then we were in the car and I said, Matthew, what is that? What are people saying? I have no clue. And then we in over the years we started to realize that what happens with Matthew with the energy, sort of, if you can compare anything at all, is happening through the voice.
Hmm.
The only thing that I do remember is that when I moved back to the Netherlands, there was a certain point that I really well remember, and I feel something happened there. There was a beam of light shining in my attic, and it was a very dark attic. So I was sitting there and I thought, oh wow, the light, let's meditate. And something happened. I started to do like this, very like becoming crazy, and then turning like this, and went, holy shoot, I couldn't even stop it.
Right.
And then right after actually we met, I didn't meet you back then yet. So right after we met, I think maybe 2 weeks later or so. And then the whole thing started. And then I asked the psychic, can you see what actually happens? Why is the healing voice? And he said, well, first of all, the sun activates light codes in the DNA. And that's what you're doing. Okay. But what does it mean, actually? The agreement, what happens to the person, is already made. I could even just read this little
Manual.
how-to manual and something similar will happen. But through the vocals, I just put myself aside and just ground, and then I just open myself up for whatever wants to happen, and then melodies come and I don't know where they come from, and it's not me composing. The whole album Echoes of the Unknown has therefore that title. I have no idea where they come from, but they come through me on the spot in one take. Everything you hear on the album has not been composed apart from song 3 by a composer, but the vocals were there and were recorded in one take.
Sure. And that's the live jam, if you will, right? Where you open yourself up. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi wrote a book called Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. And in that, he talks about it being like a jazz quartet that just loses themselves in the moment. There is no identity, there's no ego, there's just a conversation that is beyond imagination, right?
Yes.
And with you, as with all of us, our bodies are instruments. We just haven't learned how to tune them yet, which is all that inner work that takes place and those sensations that your audience report feeling.
Yeah.
Is that happening?
Yeah.
It's
And
still, all of this is so new. How do we articulate, and share and find some commonality in this expressive new language? Or do we need a language at all?
No,
better not. Yeah, that's true.
it's all energy and motion. That's what we
Mhm.
realize. We're all energy, and this is nothing new. Even science already proved this a long time ago.
Absolutely. I interviewed Dr. Irvin Laszlo several years ago. He just turned 90. Amazing guy, and he says that I thought here's the expression of ego, right? I'm like, okay, so it's quantum physics shares that we're 99% space and 1% material. And he's like, I would say we're 100% energy. And
Exactly.
I was like, oh, slap, slap, dumb shit.
Yeah.
But even
But I was willing to go there, right? It's like, okay, so let's test our truth and don't be afraid of it. And if we're wrong, it's okay. Whoever has more information will provide that, and we both get elevated that way.
Mhm. And there's even more that I wanted to add because Matthew and I both like to visit power spots, like energy
Mm.
power spots like Stonehenge or, those mountains or stone circles or whatever.
Right. And we've got Sedona here.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it's the big one.
When can we come? And
We will be there one day.
yeah,
For sure.
because your the download started actually there. And now we hear as a feedback from the album from people who do not know us. Oh, with that song, I saw Merlin's Cave from the King Arthur Castle in the UK. Check, we've been there.
Hmm.
That song I saw the Scotland Highlands and yep, check. And there I saw Thor from Glastonbury. Yep, check. And that is as if you bring those frequencies with you. It sort of gets in
As
your...
if.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
you carry it, right? We are what we focus it on or not, right? If we don't focus on anything, we carry everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
And in that, especially, Sedona area, we actually got married on the base of Belt Rock in the fall equinox of 2017. Um, been going there for years, and with his vortexes and experiences, there's this just elegance, if you will, of
Mm.
how the expression of what is comes through. We just got back from a short stint up there. We caretake my mother-in-law. She's 91 years old, advanced dementia, frontal lobe.
Mm.
And so we get a respite every once in a while. And so we went up to Sedona and we had this experience with the moon and clouds and things that were just exquisitely synchronistic with the conversation that we were having. So much so that it was both of us witnessed it.
Wow, that's
It wasn't
cool.
just a singular. And that's where, like with you two, right? There's now four eyes witnessing,
Yeah,
or at least two eyes, right, from that inner spot that
yeah,
are witnessing and the same thing and sharing perspectives of it, which further anchors that drop in the pond, if you will, that then ripples through the rest of the thought
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And we just love it there. Before I knew him, I was just there, and I don't know, I was drawn to Carnac in France, which is like a row of stones for miles and miles.
sphere.
But I had no clue what could be there. And then he obviously was already known to subtle senses like warm hands or a little bit of more beating of your heart or
Mhm.
warm hands or the energy is different, and therefore I started to notice that too. But for me as a child, that was so normal that I had no clue that not everybody sensed that. Because I've always had warm hands. When a dog would run over the street and would get by a car, I immediately did this. as a child, and I didn't know why. I thought that everybody did that.
Mm.
So I sort of fell asleep in my later on, from 12 on to 30. I was very much asleep. And then because of working with him, I started to notice those differences, and especially at these energy spots. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it's not necessarily you were asleep. You were just taking a well-deserved nap for a while.
Yeah. Well, I started to believe the others. That was the problem. And that needed to be happening, because then now I understand clients much better, or the participants in the Halo
Sure.
experience. So, all good.
Absolutely. You have to have that experience and like Matthew was talking a bit ago about having to be inside something in order to the advertising world, right? You have to go into it,
Yeah.
suspend your belief system of it
Mm.
in order to gain the clarity that it presents, whether
Exactly.
it's something that's disturbing or something that's soothing, right? That's the
Mhm.
whole Taoist, and it goes back into the body and um, the instrument, right? And what is uh, I think it was the Maori that it came probably further back, the Aboriginal, right? The three brain system, the gut, the heart, and the head, and that's how we should process things. Not that shooting yourself is good, but the optimal experience is to process from the gut up rather than
Mm.
the head down, because we stuff stuff into the body and then wonder why we feel disease or
Mm.
diseased in this process. How did you guys figure out together what this was like for the two of you and how to empower it to evolve within you and your work?
It's really interesting that you talk about the gut, because I realized after a little while, when I started doing the healing work and realized that I'm in my head and I need to go to the heart and there's a loop all, I realized that I was actually living from my gut all my life. I just didn't listen.
Hmm.
I had like this chronic, almost chronic pain in my gut because I was at the wrong place for 30 years. Realizing this when I look back now is kind of sad, but it was good as well, because
It's
this was
training, right? It's, this,
yeah,
we, pardon me for the interruption, but don't be harsh on yourself, right? It was all good. It served its purpose and you are where you are as a result. So everything worked out just perfect.
it's absolutely excellent. That's
It's
where
looking back and noting the signposts and the experiences and things like that that um, are
but
fun.
being in this environment, I mean, this was a result of my upbringing, my belief systems, my subconscious beliefs. My father survived the war. He came back, survived 4 concentration camps. So imagine what his situation was when he started a family. He was
Right,
introvert, so he wasn't able to express his feelings. So, okay, big family. I was the youngest. Have fun. So this is where all this insecurity came from, and this not being able to express my emotions, and this, of course, in a work situation as well. You
right.
feel it in your gut that this is not right, what's happening, but you are not able to process it yet. And that was the whole study, of course. So everybody gets his bag full of, let's call it, interesting perspectives.
Hmm.
But mine,
Yes.
and I ended up working very hard because my father did as well, and this was his.
Well, it's a work ethic, right? You have the same work ethic wherever you are.
Yeah. And then ending up in a burnout and with all these addictions, I went through all of them to dampen my emotions. And then at a certain point, of course, the lid, when you start waking up, the lid explodes and then everything comes out, which is good as well, an interesting journey. And then the healing started. And in my case, especially, it had to do with starting to do healing work myself. So that was
Sure.
well, everything was, of course, in retrospect, very a beautiful story afterwards. When you're in it, especially
It's
the addiction part, like drinking, like it's not. I wasn't an
It's
alcoholic, but
excruciating at times. I mean, come on, let's get real, right?
uh,
Um, and yet it takes us back into that recursive function of querying ourselves to, okay, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Mm. Me, the real me. That
Right.
was I was always giving, 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 hoping that they would see me. Even in the music industry, I was just 19 and already, how you say that? Uh,
19
getting
and naive.
Yeah, that very much. And I was singing, and then you get a, how you say that, a
Awards.
contest. Yeah,
Awards.
I won all the contests already, and I was cute and very slim, and it was all, oh, they see me. So I was singing to be seen. That didn't work. So
Right.
doors closed, obviously. And then I started to work with the composer, and I thought, oh, now maybe now this is my opening, Nope, because that was not in my cards. It was in my cards to step away from all of this and then let the vocals come through how they come through now. And I don't know what.
And yet there was learning in that too. You got to experience it and embody yourself in different ways as you were elevating
Mhm.
to the level that you wish to ascend to, or at least you were further along the path, right?
Yeah,
And the thing is that you knew the path existed at this point,
yeah.
Yeah.
which many don't. Many right now are questioning, well, why am I here? What is going on? Why?
Mm.
Because there's so much confusion and chaos, and yet all of these things are simply patterns we haven't recognized yet and or learned to adjust.
Mhm.
Mhm. But there are several phases of conscious awareness, I feel. So those
Mhm.
people, and we used to be like that as well, like me being singing because I wanted to be recognized, is existence. It's about existence, be proof that I exist. That's
Hmm.
a and then you see that's not it, and then you get into, okay, I have to give more and more and more, and then no, that's not it either, because I'm not happy, and the whole universe, or I even at some point gave so much that I became homeless and had that experience for a few years. That was not fun, but after, exactly, that was my maybe the best thing that could happen to me, because I was at ground zero. And in
Hmm.
ground zero, I went to nature, and in nature, I became so calm that the tune-ins came in, the messages from the universe. It was not really a voice, but it was sort of a voice, and it helped me to, yeah, find my true self, the nothingness, the
Your natural self. This is
yeah,
this is
the
what I
natural
I
self.
believe and would and stake my life on it. This is all natural.
Mhm.
This is what we're seeking is who we truly are by design.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
these layers are happening that's elevating. It's like spiral dynamics, right? The co-creation wheel. There's all these different aspects of self that
Mhm.
are siloed at present that we're attempting to say, okay, now let's bring it down to horizontal and more, I think D. Hock calls it a chaotic organizational structure, right? Where there's no hierarchy, it's just tasks and everybody fits in where they're designed to do so.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the phase that you go through from, oh, now I know it all. There's the spiritual ego. This is
Hmm.
how the universe works. Guys, I will tell you. There's a me telling you how it works.
Right,
That
right.
was funny. Because when you wake up from that space that you have no clue, or maybe just 1% of this incredible universe, then you better say, I don't know nothing at all. And that's the phase that we are in
I
right
can't
now.
tell you how my metaphysical days in the 90s, I can't tell you how many people I met that were supposedly the reincarnation of,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
right?
Napoleon and
It's
love.
like, oh my
Yeah.
God. Why,
Yeah.
why does identity matter so? Just
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And your identity will come through naturally when you get out of your own way
Exactly.
and
And what if,
try to be something.
yeah.
Mm.
Plus, what if everything is part of the oneness? What do you mean in a former life I was Napoleon? but the former life is simultaneously all at the same time right now. So what if we all sort of tune into that former life, Napoleon, and sometimes we've been Hitler, and sometimes we have been a particle of, I don't know, we're just the sum of particles, right?
Right. And it's all adjusting us in order to find the harmonic frequencies of the rest of the universe so that we can fall into order.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It
It's
is. And to be able to talk with people as I've been doing over the last four, we're going into our fifth year now. Um, it's just been an amazing educational experience for me, corroborative, reciprocal, elevating. Um, having a conversation with a quantum biologist about the the notion of hydrogen being the conduit for consciousness,
Mm,
wow.
right?
interesting.
And that came through on his own from his research and understanding. And for me, I queried, where the Trinity come from, and during an out of body process and facilitated sequence, um, it got hijacked by a guide that I met during the same time in college. And I was taken to a three sun system with a dozen planets around it. And the three suns took one voice and said, "We are not only your forefathers, we're also the forefathers of your solar system." And so I wanted to ask more questions to dig deeper. And Zephyr says, "Nope, that's it. You got all you need. You'll figure it out." Right. Okay. So I already knew that the 666 was the carbon atom and the number of man, right? So breaking down the macro, the three, into the micro, which would be proton, electron, and neutron, all the elements in the periodic table fit with the exception of hydrogen. So is there a missing link in hydrogen that provides that tertiary framework that's in the rest a little
Mm,
differently? So there's a connection to and through the suns. Hydrogen powers the sun. It's the most plentiful gas in the universe. What else it do? It's the bonding agent for a DNA helix.
Ah,
mm,
okay. Bingo.
yeah,
Yeah. So all these things are there, right?
yeah,
It's just connecting the dots that we've been oblivious to for a while because we didn't have the technology or science to dig that deep or the intellectual understanding to have the queries. I mean, for me, I just still feel like a kid asking dumb questions, right?
exactly.
But they're not so dumb because they're so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
wow.
Well, it's about letting go of a lot of concepts. That's what we have been realizing because we've been bombarded with concepts that
Hmm.
other want you to believe in, which is like, did you
Check.
experience it? Did you check it? Did you
Right.
check what love is,
Did you
for
check for
example?
understanding? Right.
Yeah, did some basic questions like what is love, or what is existence of, or so ask the right questions and then you get the right answers, and otherwise you're just stuck in concepts. And these are
Right.
all years of filters of not seeing the real truth, and it's a super interesting process, and you get more empty and less knowledgeable at the same time. It's like my at least that's my experience, and I think a lot of people experience this, that my memory is going.
Mm,
It's like very basic things just being erased, and by that process being more and more a channel of I don't have
more
a clue what I'm
information.
saying. Like this I probably will not remember what I said during this whole
Oh,
conversation
you
because
make perfect sense to me because this is how you step into the now,
exactly, yeah.
By not
right?
knowing.
Even Lao Tzu said, if you're stuck in the past, you're stressful. If you're in the future, you're stressed, right? When you're in the present, there's no stress there. There's
Mm,
just simply the being and the willingness to step into that moment without attachment to outcome.
mm,
And that
yeah.
doesn't mean you don't plan and strategize,
Mm.
right? Because there's all this curiosity that's still there is, okay, what can I do? Who can I be? What can I do with this? Where can my gift fit best?
Mm.
Mm,
to have that reciprocal activity, right? Because as we give, we also ought to be receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Most difficult thing to do is to
Mm.
accept that reception.
Yep.
Yeah. Receiving is the big
It's like,
one.
oh no, I don't deserve this, right? And yet
Especially
you
for
do.
people that are in the light work field or
Yeah.
energy or whatever, or it's like receiving is if you really get that one, then you're nearly there, I guess, because
It's what it
Sure.
really.
it's something like giving, it's like saving the world and stuff like that. All.
Well, and how often do people actually extend themselves to help somebody? Right? This is
Mm.
the one thing that I learned in the aerospace industry. At 26 years old, I was in charge of a $7 million a month desk, 800 part numbers for commercial spares. And I was the youngest person in the department. I'd gone through those hoops, right? And I noticed that others around me, a 35-person department, people were beating each other up to try and get the job done, right?
Mm.
Threatening, I'll go to your supervisor if you don't do whatever, and being a material, we had to move things. But that was our responsibility. And we just had this Midwestern, hey, how can I help you do your job while we're doing mine, right? What can I do for you? And tremendously successful. I was at the top of the production list for months in a row, and then they finally came to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I just said, "I'm just treating people like I'd like to be treated."
Wow.
Yeah.
And several years later, they instituted interpersonal skills classes because I pushed for it and ended up being shoved aside because of it, because I was a disruptor.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
Uh,
were not ready.
that was my first experience of corporate culture and what not to do, right? If you want to fit in. But it wasn't
Mm.
about fitting in for me. It was about doing the right thing and being in integrity with myself.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And that just filters through everything, right? It's how we interact with each other when we have that choice of what to say or do, and we pause and reflect before the activity, whatever that may be. And like
Mm.
Mm.
with you, um, the tuning in for the toning to come out, right?
Yeah.
You're tuning in for the tune to come out. Um, this is that tuning of the body. Your body is your instrument, and your voice is that communication that you're making at a very deep, soul reflective level. And you
Yeah.
can feel it and sense it. You've got the proof by the reflections from your audiences.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm very curious what you sensed.
Um, I don't know that I can put words to it.
No, I
I
can.
just recognize the connection that you have and how you express it in those ways. Now, I'm a little prejudiced. I was looking for places to play in it. I am, you know, I've got a 10-piece drum kit in a formal dining room,
Mm.
right? So I'd like to express myself much differently. And, my wife and I are both percussionists in that way. Her music is a lot more beautiful because I can't play, all the different notes on the drums, although I try. Um,
Mhm.
that kind of expression, it's that jazzy fusion, um, whatever happens. And, for a decade and a half, I played with some guys that's all we do. We just pick a place and play to it
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
and not know what was going to come out.
Yeah.
And so hearing that, that's where I went with it. It's like, oh my gosh, I would love to be inside this space and participating.
We will one day. We go to Sedona and we will. The invitation of this album is not to approach it as music. So that would be the invitation for the next time for you to listen and
Sure.
to close your eyes and to go inward and see what happens. Because there's two of us. There's an energy captured in the
Mhm.
album as well, which makes
Well,
it
yeah,
more.
that's the masculine and feminine dance that makes it so perfect.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a real big field of different frequencies through sound and energy. And what will it do with people? That's the invitation.
Sure.
But we have a future. There's no plan, but there's something that wants to move through us, and that is to do this live with musicians like yourself to see what happens
Yeah.
if we, yeah,
I would love that. That would be
outside place with beautiful lights and a beautiful audience who's ready to receive, and each concert will be different because we never know what will come.
oh, experience that, with the guys I was
Yeah.
playing with for years. You never knew what was going to happen. Some days were better than others.
Of course, but this is even beyond improvisation.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
improvisation.
Yeah, it's not in
Improvisation.
improvisation.
Yeah, it's beyond because improvisation is still, I know how to play. I know this rhythm and I
Yeah.
go with rhythm. And this is at least that's how we experienced it. This goes beyond that because she didn't read.
No,
Right. It's not a patterned response. It's just an opening.
the first track was actually an error in the studio. There was a test tone out of nowhere, and the technical guys were like, "Shit, where's it coming from? This should not supposed to happen. Can we shut it down? Where's it coming from?" And I said, "Wait, we said that we would use
Embrace.
everything and embrace everything. This
And
is
the universe says, okay, let's start with this one.
recorded right now." And I was standing behind the microphone, and the melody that you hear was recorded in one take.
Yeah. Use the test.
And it has nothing to
One
do
take
with
wonders,
being
right?
good. And because we invited professional strings as well,
Mhm.
who are used to playing by notes, and they arrived, and okay, where are the notes? There are no notes.
Right. This is my wife and I have talked because she's classically trained, and it's the classical the training is so precise. Each note, each inflection, it goes with what the piece is supposed to represent. So that kind of training often makes it more challenging to let go and jam
Very difficult.
because
Yeah.
you're used to having that structure. And the few times that we have found space to do so has
Mhm.
been absolutely profound
Oh wow, I can imagine.
and a bit scary,
Uh-huh.
right?
That's good.
Yeah, our guitarist was also like, what do you mean, just play? Just play. So he gave him a session so the ego would be out of the way. And then the most beautiful sounds ever came. It's the sixth track. And, if you, especially when I would love to play with you and your wife and sing with you and see what happens, because what if something else will take over her hands and let her play piano like she can never believe? Then that's when the magic starts.
Mhm.
Because
Absolutely.
it's
And
already out there.
well, you mentioned earlier about, all the different past lives and whatever that we may have or not had. Um, being able to open yourself up and play into. When I was first learning how to play drums, I bought two sets, put them in my dorm room. One of the sets belonged to a friend of mine's uncle who had passed away. And my first real challenge was playing along with Fly By Night. And I loved that album. And there was a piece that I just could not. The kit that I had at the time was 9 piece. I had a 20-inch bass as a floor tom. And so the in process, I was having trouble, and I just paused for a moment, and I said, the guy's name was David Starr. And I said, Dave, man, if you can hear
Oh,
me and you love these things as much as I do, give me a hand here, help me out. And then it was weird. I felt this almost like an egg breaking on the top of my head and this fluid flowing through me. And this was 1975, so I put the needle back on the album and nailed it. And so from that time forward, a few years later, I'm married. The drums are in the room upstairs above our bedroom, and I'm at work. It was meat cutting at the time. I get a phone call. My wife is just hysterical. She goes, your drums, your drums. And I said, what about them? She goes, I heard them. And I said, well, that's Dave just trying to tell you he's there and not to be afraid, right? Because it was very melodic and it didn't work. So those kinds of things, when they happen, some can embrace it and be okay with it, and some
Not yet.
pull back and it's like, I can't deal with this,
That's
right?
fine.
Because that unknown factor is uncomfortable still
Yeah. Our biggest
because of
fear.
whatever fears are in place.
Yeah.
It's the unknown.
And that's why the
We're afraid
session
of.
comes to place, because when he creates a high frequency field, that lessens without doing anything. It's not the person are trying not to be fearful. No, they're just being, and the energies just dissolve it. Is that good English? Yeah, sort of. Because when you put light in a dark room, there's light.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what happens.
And the
And
dark's still there.
And it's welcome.
and it's
Right?
very well contrast. Yeah.
That there's back to the recursive function, right? The paradox of holding it without distinction.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there's that unity frequency, for lack of a better, I haven't really called it that yet.
That's a very good name, actually.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Can we use that as a name?
Oh, pfft,
I've heard our
by
name
all
on.
means, I don't own anything. It just comes out my mouth, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. So this unity frequency that we wish to tap into and share is what is bringing us all to a new level or new living awareness in this new normal as a result of having gone through COVID and ascending from it, which draws everybody else. And ultimately, it just makes sense. Where are we going to go? Who are we going to be? What are we going to do? We got to figure out boundaries or illusions, right? We're on one planet. We breathe one air. We have one water. We're in one, solar system. It just makes sense that we would ascend to that order, if you will, over time, right?
Yeah.
And because we have that capacity of free will and using it in contrary ways, there's still this momentum that has to be built in order for that energy to begin to I don't know. I started to say funnel into, and I'm not sure that that's really what it does. It expands out of, because this consciousness, we are the earth. We all the cells in our body come from the materials from our planet, right? From our mother. So we are her children, literally. How do we learn how to respect our mother? We haven't. That's part of the process. We respect mother, we respect father, we recognize, like you two and my wife and I were learn how to blend the masculine and feminine because we each carry both. And then how does that dance reveal itself in the best ways possible? And how attentive can we be to that and get out of our own way in the process? How do you find that? What advice can you give to others? I mean, both of you, you've had this wonderful expressive, you can articulate it extremely well at a very sensory level. How could what might others benefit from your insight and wisdom?
Well, shall I start this time?
Please do.
Because it just popped up when you were talking. This getting out of the way is the whole journey, at least for me. I'm speaking for me, but I think we recognize this both because, like as I said, what started off in the advertising business, first inflate what's in the way as to an amount that's like it didn't fit in the room, and then deflate and then realize that there's not even a you. If you start looking for you, then where is you? You know, if you really go really deep down inside of you, then where is the you? Maybe you're just a hollow vessel that's just allow it to go through you and you're just the observer. of the experience. And this is the journey for me, and this is about the biggest thing for the whole wake up story. And this is how I teach the way to work with healing frequencies as well.
Mm-hmm.
There, it's available. There's nothing to it. You don't have to do any difficult things. It's just there. Just get out of the way.
And the
then
thoughts come simply from your observance,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
It's a natural flow of that energy.
Yeah. So that's super scary sometimes, but if you go through another layer, it's like, oh, enlightenment is for me this journey to let go of everything. You know, one of my teachers said the spiritual way is throw everything away. It's just
Right.
okay, not collect a new
So would
thing.
that be endarkenment?
Sorry, endarkenment. Yeah, as well. Yeah. No, but this is if you don't embrace the dark, good luck going to the light, because that's of course.
Yeah, and don't judge it, right? We have this tendency to really be self-inflicting, and that's not loving.
What really helps for me is sometimes saying to myself, if my mind takes over, I am source energy. How would source energy look at the dark? There's darkness. Hey, there's darkness. Okay. Hey, there's light. Hey, there's a feeling. Hey, there's a thought. And then you immediately become the observer of it. And then you can choose to go deeper or sometimes not. And sometimes just
Sure.
acknowledge that it's there. And if it stirs up a certain emotion, you best stay with the emotion. It's like with clouds. There's a cloud. Do you want to push the cloud away, or do you just see there's a cloud? And before you know it, the cloud or the mist or the whatever is gone. And
Or
that's
you can play with your psychic gifts and see if you can do some cloud busting.
yeah, we tried. It's funny, especially with the trails. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Everything is possible, and as you say, play with it. It's to play. We should play more as a child because we make it so serious. Oh, there's an emotion. So what?
Yeah,
There's an
wasn't there a guy that said, "Be ye as little children," right? And we still don't get it. We're too busy adulting.
oh my gosh. Stop doing that. Yeah. Yeah, especially us, buddy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, if you wonder about the darkness, just look around you. All right. Yes, we have a lot of light on the planet, but during, when the sun's behind us, look out into the cosmos. There's more darkness than light.
Uh-huh.
And so in that, the nothingness, one of the things, and I've heard this from several sources. I'm going to jump into outer space and interdimensional or intradimensional beings. And they basically said, hey, guys, you don't understand nothingness. This is where we get everything from.
Exactly. That's what I've been saying as well. Yeah. Because in
Well,
this nothingness, everything
it's a
can
ubiquitous truth in consciousness. So it's going to reveal itself when you're ready.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, that. Somebody asked me, "Oh, I work with energy and I sing and I wanna do this as well. I wanna do this healing vocals. How
Mhm.
do you do that? I don't do anything. How can I teach someone to do healing frequencies through sound? Not. But we can teach you to go out of the way and see what happens. But maybe it's not sound, maybe it's something else.
Exactly. Right. And from my transformational coach for 20 years and still do it occasionally, I love it because I ask those questions like, okay, so you're making a shift and you don't have to eliminate all the skill sets that you've acquired, right? Because they were purposeful. It's just repurposing them now to something new or different that edifies your beingness
Mhm.
rather than uses it for some other's purpose. And being able to, assess the skill sets and have people dive. I got a 13-page survey that I use. It's probably ridiculous, but it gets into those deep areas of self-reflection, right? And being able to look at, okay, here I am. What's my dream? Who do I see myself as potentially being? And then how can we set up an action plan that gives you at least a step-by-step activity or flow to open yourself up to the environments that can provide that? Because there's really no pat answers to it. It's an individual journey for each. However, the process is always the same.
And it changes because I teach the people that visit my practice, so to say, or the training, what wants to come through today. And you cannot make a business around it. So that's quite challenging. But actually, so will you make another album? I don't know. I don't know. If there's album, if it wants to come through, it will. But I will not pinpoint myself or put myself in a jail that I have to create new albums. Maybe something
got to produce, get the whip out, you know.
Then it becomes an industry, you know.
Well, that's what Matthew's experienced in advertising, right? Got to produce.
Yeah. That's a good training, trust me.
No,
if you get that 35 years of training out of your system, it's really challenging sometimes. But
well, I would offer that's not really out of your system because it provides you the discipline to do what you do now.
Yeah, but in a totally different way.
Absolutely.
And not with the burnout, the chances of a burnout, but the other way around.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's the internal discipline, not necessarily the external, right? It's the query of self and then paying attention and doing what comes, right? That's where the being converts into doing.
Imagine this is the buzzword in advertising, deadlines. I mean, realize what it does to your system, the stress, the full-on stress.
Right.
Working on this. So
well, it's the competitive language as opposed to the collaborative. Rather than deadlines, how about lifelines?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Fun lines or
whatever.
Right. Musicians as well, they have a deadline because there's a release date.
Yeah.
We said to each other, yeah, do we have a release date? No, we see how it goes in the flow. And if it's ready to release, we release it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and that's a different way of approaching, but it's very important that you
and the nice thing is the shelf life on the process and the information is there's no end date.
No.
Exactly.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
You two have just been lovely. I'm so warm, kind, compassionate, and caring. It comes through in your beingness. It comes through in your music together. And I know that effect has to ripple through the Thoughtmosphere in some magnificent ways. And I'm looking forward to witnessing those further.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was an amazing, and I think we could talk for hours, and we really need to go to your place to make music and go to the power spots and
make some plans.
Yeah.
That might come true.
That may come true. Yep.
That'd be wonderful. We'll look forward to that and anticipate the possibility.
Absolutely.
We allow the possibility.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being with us, and wow, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. So namaste and in lak'ech, and thanks for sticking with us for this episode of One World in a New World. Remember, please like, subscribe, share, and visit PlanetaryCitizens.net and pick up your copy of Planetary Citizens: Awakening the Heart of Humanity. That's what we're doing. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.